for phase 2, which will take place in February, we will be piloting 4, 5, 9, and 11 for ELA. You see the content areas for mathematics. Those benchmarks will be available in fall of next school year. Now, are we doing off-grade testing for phase 2? No. Okay. So for phase 2, no, because students will have had some exposure, will have had, large exposure to the content, not necessarily the full year. Okay, so here's the difference, the comparison of what we've got differently. So the formative item bank is language arts and math, but the benchmark also includes science and social studies. We're trying to build items in that. The formative is grades 3 through high school, but the benchmarks include grades 1 and 2. Everything is housed in the OAS, but where the things are housed will be different. Level 2, which is the teacher level for the formative, level 3 for the benchmarks, so that's where systems can build benchmarks. And we're trying to cull as many items as we can, so while we will build benchmark forms and put them out there for you, we are hoping, and we have developed additional items so that you can then go in and build additional benchmarks if you need them. And you have those reserved at the system level, which would not be available for classroom use until you deem that appropriate. And then variety of item types. For the formative, it's mostly constructed response. For the benchmarks, it's multiple choice short answer because of the committee felt that we needed to get a fast turnaround and not overly burdened teachers who are already overly burdened. Okay, so let's talk about FIP. FIP is kind of the glue that holds everything together, and it's formative instructional practices. And again, we use the word instruction intentionally. Assessment can be instructional if it's done appropriately. There are 7 modules in FIP. 5 are for educators in the classroom. 2 are for coaches and administrators. So it's implementing FIP. How do you support it? How do you promote it? How do you look for it? How do you ensure it's happening? That first module out of the 5 it's just a solid foundation on all things formative assessment. So all of the research, you're all familiar with Rick Stiggins, who I could sit and listen to him forever. These modules are really built from his work, and you will see him as part of these modules. So although Battelle for Kids is the one that built these modules, they partner with Rick Stiggins and his group. And there are videos with Rick and his staff. While we are contracting with Battelle for Kids for this content, as part of our content, we have rights to the content, or as part of the contract, we have rights to the content in perpetuity. So this won't go away. With that said, Battelle for Kids is hosting the platform. Eventually, we're going to migrate it over to the longitudinal data system. But I really want us to take advantage of this while we can. And one of the things that we've done to promote this, again, this is the first time in all the years that I've been in assessment in the state, the first time that and I know that there was lots of stuff going on before I came to the department, but we've really had a focus on professional learning surrounding assessment. And it's so critically needed. Again, it's not something that folks don't already know, but here's some comments that those pilot teachers and educators in the advisory districts thought. I really think that top one is important because people do have trouble distinguishing what's the difference between formative and assessment. And I'm going to show you a video in just a few minutes that we've done to promote this. But understanding the learning targets, understanding how to give effective feedback, because really the crutch of it is the feedback that we give to students. That is where the power is. That is what motivates the student to do better, to put forth the effort, or demotivates the student. And I want you to think about your own assessment experiences, think about your own college level work. I just got done. And I constantly used that first assessment I had to take in my coursework to know how much effort I had to put it in the class. And I'm very ashamed to stand in front of you and say, I did that. But yeah, I did that. Did I really, what were the expectations of the professor? How much effort did I have to put into my work? Students do that too, and so it's really important that we all know we've got to have consistent expectations, high expectations, and we've got to clearly communicate those expectations. So the other thing that I want to really stress is that FIP is aligned to TEKS and LEAKS, and there are some brochures that we have had printed that show the alignment. This is the leader brochure. And so it shows the alignment to the standards in the LAPs and the TAPs. So as teachers or leaders are going through these modules and working these modules, they are naturally collecting evidence that will support their observation and their evaluation. They're not just doing, we don't want this to be seen as just another thing we got to do. And we want it to be seen as it's a natural, it's integrated. We've taken great care to make sure that is. RESAs have brochures for you. They were shipped to your RESA at the end of July. So each district has a set of brochures, both the leader brochure and the teacher brochure. They're really nifty. They have some, we don't ever get anything good in assessment, so I'm really excited about this. All of my money goes out to contractors. All I see are tests. And I don't even get to see the test. I just get to see the data. So I don't live a very exciting life. But it's full of drama, but it's not exciting. Okay, so one of the things is it has a perforation that you can tear off, and you can do fit with a friend. And so it has these little cards that you can hand so you can get your friend connected. Look, clearly I have issues. But I'm excited about that. Okay, the other issue I have is I'm really excited about this video. So here are the 7 different modules. Again, that first one, everyone should go through that, and that's just foundations of what formative assessment is, what the research is, a good kind of recap of everything we know about formative assessment. I'm not so naive as to think that we're going to shed any light on anything we don't already know, but it just kind of gets everyone in the right mindset for why this is important. And then you go through the clear learning targets, collecting and documenting evidence of student learning. It really talks about making sure that you're using the right type of tool for the expectation. Because, I can use my shoe to try to get a nail into a wall. I'm probably not going to be that effective in doing it. And I might even do some damage, probably to my shoe. If my aim's not right, I might do damage to the wall too. But I'm going to be more successful with the right tool, with a hammer, right? So making sure that we're matching, and we've got to get away from multiple choice, and we've got to free ourselves from thinking that everything has to be graded. Analyzing the data, providing effective feedback, and then student ownership is critical. And then again, for the leaders. Okay, so here's the video that should begin. And it is long, but I'm sure you're sick of me at this point.
State School Superintendent for Georgia Public Schools. Educators across the state are hard at work implementing Georgia's rigorous curriculum standards to ensure that all students are prepared for college and careers when they graduate from high school. Thank you so much for your efforts as we journey together to provide the best educational experience for our students. Today, I want to talk with you about a new professional learning opportunity that will help our students achieve college and career readiness. The professional learning opportunity is called Formative Instructional Practices, or FIP. You might be wondering, what do we mean when we say FIP? Formative instructional practices are the formal and informal ways that teachers and students gather and respond to evidence of student learning. This high-impact strategy has been proven to raise student achievement. Students need to know and understand their learning goals in order to be successful. With FIP professional learning, teachers will help students more fully understand what they are learning and why. Students will better recognize where they are currently in their learning and where they're going. and know how to get there. With FIP, Georgia educators have the opportunity to access online learning modules and facilitation materials based on some of the world's best research about formative assessment practices. The Georgia Department of Education has made this professional learning experience available at no cost to state educators across the state. There are 4 core components of FIP professional learning. They are clear learning targets, evidence of student learning, effective feedback, and student ownership. Learning about FIP will help Georgia educators develop and intentionally use strategies with fidelity to improve achievement outcomes for our students. FIP provides a blended learning experience so educators can opt to participate online, face-to-face, or through professional learning teams, or any combination of these models. Additionally, there are user-friendly resource materials to download that guide you through the learning experience. In this video, you will hear from leaders and teachers who have already participated in formative instructional practices professional learning. When learning targets are clear, students can answer the question, where am I going?
The Clear Learning Targets module did a great job of presenting the 4 different kinds of learning targets. The learning targets allow teachers to really hone into each specific standard so that they can go in depth and understand what the standard is really asking for. And in turn, that's going to allow the teacher then to base instructional planning on what are the key pieces of it and the important pieces of the standard so that there is time well spent on the depth of the concept.
So the FIP and the teacher keys and leader keys are closely related to each other as we're looking for student growth and student achievement.
Now, I worked through all 6 or 7 of the modules just like the teachers and the principals did. And the trainings enabled me to be able to have conversations with individual teachers and or principals, staff meetings, different places where we're meeting. I'm knowledgeable of what they're doing every day in the classrooms.
When evidence of student success is collected and documented, students can use this evidence to answer the question, where am I now?
Georgia has really been using the multiple choice format or selected response format for many years. And viewing the FIP module with collecting and documenting student learning, it was apparent to me that there are many more assessment methods that need to be utilized. In mathematics, constructed response is a favorite of many teachers, where students can show you what they know by writing in a response. But there are also performance assessments that you can really use to see what skills students have, as well as just personal communication. I think sometimes personal communication is underutilized as an assessment method. Just sitting down and talking to students and finding out what they know as they tell you about their learning can be very powerful.
I learned with collecting and documenting evidence of student learning that I do not have to grade every piece. I plan to change a lot of what we do in collecting information.
When feedback is effective, students use this feedback to answer the question, am I on the right path?
Most teachers in this building saw grading as a summative operation. All summative assessments, any type of grading, they use it as a summative assessment. Through FIP, they began to realize that they can use every day, daily operations, observations, tickets out the door as formative assessments to help them along the way to see student growth.
Effective feedback keeps students on the right track because students really have a roadmap as to what they know and what they should be able to do. They know up front what information they should know, what learning target they should be able to do. And as they get that feedback from teachers, they're able to navigate their way to that end goal.
An effective feedback strategy that I learned was a simple strategy, just giving the students their test back and saying, you made 2 mistakes. and allowing the student to go back and find the mistake in their test themselves. And every time I did that, all the students were able to go right back to where they made a mistake and identify either this was a careless error or I really need help in this area. Can you help me?
When students take ownership of their learning, students can answer the question, what do I need to do to be successful?
Student ownership means that the teacher is not the only person in the room responsible for learning, that the students are responsible for their own learning. And we have presented the information in a way that helps students to see where they are in their learning process. So if I were to walk into a classroom or in my own classroom, I should be able to see students keeping track of their progress.
Professional learning about formative instructional practices is critical for educators to connect the dots between curriculum, instruction, assessment, and readiness for college and careers. Thank you in advance for your efforts to propel your growth and impact student success.
What I liked about it the most was the fact that the principals truly became instructional leaders.
Well, the FIT modules make a great connection between professional performance and student achievement. And it has been a collaborative effort between the Office of Assessment, representatives from Human Resources and Professional Learning, as well as from Curriculum and Instruction. We are hoping to implement year-long in some key schools to try out here in Gwinnett.
My work involves less of me and more of the students.
So this is out there now. It's on the website for FIP. Please avail yourself to this. Your system test coordinators have your access codes. There are access codes for every district and every school. We hope that you will utilize it. This is what excites me about assessment. This is why I chose this field. It is not the turmoil that I go through every day. It is not the high stakes assessments that we administer at the state. And I would argue very passionately that the type of assessment and evaluation that goes on in the classroom during instruction is much more high stakes than the type of assessment that goes on at the end of the year. Because that's when the teacher decides whether the students have a concept or not, have an understanding, can move on or not. And if that teacher, unfortunately, doesn't have high quality information to make that decision, they're not going to make a high quality decision. And again, think about your own experiences with informal assessment when you were taking courses and think about the impact of that. So this is what really gets my juices going. It's just so important for us to understand how to utilize. And again, it's a process and it can be informal. It doesn't have to be stop and go. So, again, these just tell a little bit about the modules that you've already learned about, but they're there. And again, this will be posted. There is a really informative web page out there now. There are many resources, including facilitation guides that you can download. While it is possible that individual teachers can cruise through these online modules themselves, we ask that it be done we think it will be more beneficial if it's done in a more thoughtful manner in small learning communities, if at all possible. But again, I know there's so much going on now, it's balancing. We do think that this work will support everything that we do, including TEKS and leaks, as well as help with the slow process, which is not very slow, right? It's really fast. So it's there, but there are resources that talk about how to implement this, give you some suggestions. Kelly Harris Wright just came from a district, and so she brought a district perspective to implementing these types of things. lots of good resources. You can award PLUs for this, and so there is a resource out there that tells you how many hours based on the approach that you take by modules. So there's lots of good information on this website, including the brochures are there in PDF, and the video is now there as well. So I really do, if I've done nothing else in my life for this date, this is what we need. I really do feel that. We need to move away from this high stakes, we test everybody and everything all the time. So there's the PLUs. And again, bringing it back to balance. It's all about the balance, trying to get all of these things kind of resituated. Yes, summative assessment is important. Don't hear me say that, but it has its place. It is not the end-all, be-all. So with that, can I switch gears and just talk a little bit about the CRCT readiness indicators? So you know that we did not change the expectations for the CRCT in language arts, reading, and mathematics. We kept the performance levels the same as they were for GPS. So the cut scores of 800 and 850, remained the same. But we all know that 800 is not going to be sufficient, and it hasn't been sufficient for a while. It was a stretch when we first implemented GPS. We all remember those implementation dips, but we have made significant progress within our state. So we wanted to really provide feedback to educators in an effort to send a clearer signals about where students are and to help ready us for what is to come. And so earlier this year, we convened 3 panels of Georgia educators to review